All right, so we will start with Prop 1 right here. This is housing programs, and this is a bunch of borrowing to spend to build affordable housing. That one's looking pretty solid right now. It wasn't earlier tonight, but that one's flipped around. Prop 2 has been looking good all night, and this one comes out of a dedicated source of money, unlike the rest. The rest are all paid out of general tax dollars. This one comes out of the millionaire's tax.
And that one's doing much better than the other.
And that, I think, is reflected in these numbers. It's also a sympathetic cause. You're talking about mentally ill homeless people and building housing for them. Then if we roll on to Prop 3, this one's been really struggling tonight. It is the largest spending package of the 4 bond propositions.
People just spin out by the time you get here, huh?
Yeah, well, you're talking about, you know, multi-billion-dollar questions here, and water projects, when you start talking about dams and infrastructure and that kind of stuff, gets really expensive.
Kind of wonky, too,
Could be sticker shock. Could be that people didn't buy that was going to actually do enough for the water problem for the price. Whatever it is, it's going down right now. Prop 4 is the last of the bonds, and if we can take a look at that, this is for children's hospitals. It's construction money towards children's hospitals. A lot of these are private organizations, but we're talking about forking over some taxpayer money towards them, and people are willing to do it.
And I know we said we handed over some money. Where's the money coming from? Is it a new tax or something like that? Or
the flippant way to say it is we're putting it on the state's credit card, but in reality, it's more like taking out a home loan. Because the idea of a bond is you take out a big loan right now, it allows you to do a bunch of spending right away, and then you're going to pay it back over 30 to 40 years in the case of these bonds, much like your 30-year mortgage. Similar idea. It's not necessarily an evil way to do things. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Sometimes you need to borrow to do something expensive. You never buy a house if you had to save your pennies and wait for it. So that's kind of the idea of that. Anyhow, people are saying the children's hospitals, it's worth it. We can roll on to Prop 5 here and check in on the results there. And you can see this one is going down. This was an interesting one. I think it was probably pretty hard for people to understand. It turned out to be the longest video. We did not keep this one under a minute.
You couldn't do this one under a minute.
But the idea basically is if you live in California, there's kind of this loyalty program for staying in your house if you've bought a house for a really long time, because your taxes can only go up 2% a year, your property taxes. So if you've been in your house for decades and decades, you're paying a lot less than if you went out and bought that exact same house for the value that it's worth today than somebody else would. So this would allow people to have moved around the state instead of just in their own county
and keep
the discount on the property tax.
And folks didn't want to do that, huh?
People either maybe they didn't understand all the inner workings of it, or perhaps they took a look at the cost to local governments and schools, because this would have reduced property taxes.
Right?
You got to pay for it. Exactly. Moving on to Prop 6, this is the gas tax.
Let's see how this is
would
looking.
repeal the gas tax increase that the state legislature put into effect last year. Would also handcuff the future
what is that
legislators.
reporting? Oh, that is 22% reporting. Okay, yeah.
There you go, 22% reporting. So that being said, this is a 10-point gap. It's going to be pretty hard to make that up over the course of the night, and this appears to be going down at this point.
Now, talk to me about this gas tax, because this was a controversial deal. On the surface,
and this is SB1, right? So you drive around town, you see those under construction SB1 signs. You can see more of them because they're trying to put those out so you know where the money came from for these projects.
The gas tax, the whole idea was what? Was to, $2 billion it was supposed to generate to actually fix roads here in
the long run, they're talking maybe more like $5 billion a year as the thing ramps up, and it allows the gas tax to adjust up for inflation. So systemically, there are issues with the gas tax because it tends to be a per gallon tax as opposed to a percentage. So, right, your sales tax is just a percentage on the receipt when you go to the store. Gas tax has always been a set number of cents per gallon. Your car only needs so many gallons, and as cars get more fuel efficient, that's less money coming in for the state. So the idea is to let it keep up with inflation, and so that was part of the package the legislature put in place. This was meant to shove that all back in the legislature's face and tell them you can't ever do this again without asking voters. Right now, voters are saying, nah, we're cool.
Can I just say that only we could talk to you, Brandon, and you would be able to go, you can dig right down into the nitty-gritty of this stuff. You know what I mean? A lot of times people just say, I don't want to pay more for gas. But you're looking at the whole per gallon deal of it and all of these things that down the line, they're more than likely going to have to address at some point.
Make no mistake, there's going to be a crisis with gas tax sometime in the future. If we all move to electric cars, the gas tax isn't going to build a mile of road, right?
Well, and that's the other point. That's the other point, right?
But that's a future problem.
But is that not something that at least some of the Democrat, one of the policies that they're pushing is that they would like to see California move
states right now are in this big sort of conundrum about what to do about that. They're talking about pay per mile as a concept, but that feels very Big Brother to some people. You know, right? It's a lot easier to charge you for a gallon of gas no one asks questions about how many miles you drove your car. You know what I mean? If they put a little transponder in your car, people are going to be a little freaked out about that. So there are going to be some problems working through road funding and how to pay for it in the future. All right, moving on to Prop 7. And now, one of the fascinating things to me about Prop 7, and I'm going to look here. All right, you'd have to do the math to add up these votes and compare it, but there were hundreds of thousands fewer votes on this than the other props. So what I'm thinking happened here is you've got some people who were like, you know, whatever my neighbors want with the daylight saving time, that's cool.
I don't know, though.
It's something like a fourth or a third less people than most of the other ballot questions.